This is the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
It's a Tuesday morning. We're having more fun than the Browns losing on a walk-off punt return for a touchdown. That wasn't a punt return, but it was a blocked kick.
There it was.
That led to the Baltimore Ravens winning last night in the weirdest, dumpsterest, fieriest game of the NFL this last weekend. But we don't even care because that's all we're going to talk about. That's it. That's
it.
That's our little token for the Ravens-Browns today. So if you're looking for Ravens-Browns talk, you can just
Go elsewhere.
Go elsewhere. We don't care. That's it. That's all we were going to talk about. I wasn't even going to talk about it at all. But
if it wasn't for the big ending, we wouldn't have even mentioned it.
Exactly. If I don't care. Nobody cares about the Browns-Ravens game last night when neither team.
No fantasy owner benefited from that game at all.
No. You would have.
I would have. Yeah, the Baltimore defense scored 16 points. That's awesome.
But you didn't start them, unfortunately.
I did not.
It's okay though. We don't blame you for that. We all make mistakes. It happens to the best of us. You're not making a mistake by being here, Sam.
It's true.
And those of you that are listening are not making a mistake either, that listening to us right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, right here on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Good morning, everybody on Periscope. Hello. Sorry, nobody said hi back. All right. Either way, people are still there. Anyway, good morning. Great to see all of you. A lot of great things to get to today. Bleacher Report's David Kenyon will be on the program today, as he is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We missed out on him last week due to a shorter week and him traveling as well, but still a lot of great things to get to today as well. And remember, you can also get us on sportsradioamerica.com from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time, and also on demand on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com.
We are also on social media. We are on Facebook at The BG Sports Show and Instagram at BG Sports Show, and then you can always find us on Twitter at BG Sports Show, at Baxter Colburn, and at Samuel_Wallace2.
Sam, this year in the NFL has been very interesting, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah.
It's been unique.
It's been awesome.
It's been fantastic, depending on what team you support. But if you're just a purely casual outside observer, you have to be fairly happy with just
been a fun
how
year.
This has been, It's been a pretty exciting year to watch. There's been drama. There's been injuries up the wazoo, honestly. I can't even believe how many people. Every week, at least one marquee player gets hurt.
It seems like
But what's been stealing the headlines, at least the last 5 or 6 weeks, has been the awful, awful officiating.
Just terrible.
Just absolutely atrocious. And this has nothing to do with us being Green Bay Packer fans or even NFC North fans, because realistically, everybody in every game has gotten screwed at least once this year.
Oh, for sure.
By an awful reffing call. And I get it. They're humans. Everyone's human.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Mistakes will be made.
But to
Not
be at
to this
so
level.
many inconsistent levels, it's ridiculous. What does the NFL need to do to get these refs a little bit more in check and actually, not hurt the game as a whole going forward?
Man, I wish I could find out what the protocol is for becoming a ref. And I've known some friends of mine who have gone into officiating. They start off small. They do, Pop Warner football games, things like that.
Yeah.
And they go to maybe middle school games. You work your way up, high school games, college games, maybe get a couple bowl games, and then you might start doing preseason games, things like that.
Yep.
But, you see a lot of these officials, and they're like, our head official today is so-and-so. He's in his 17th year. He's done 4 Super Bowls. It's like, all right, come on. You're making these just terrible calls. I just don't understand.
Even the other night, too, with Ed Hockley in the refereeing career, there wasn't too many bad calls on Thanksgiving that I noticed, but there were still enough
head scratchers.
Exactly. And it hasn't just been professional football. There's been some college football games recently, too. There was a botched call at the end of the Notre Dame-Stanford game the other night, too.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Notre Dame quarterback's knee was clearly down on the half-yard line, but nope, they said he was in the end zone with the ball. It still ended up working out in Stanford's favor because they got to kick the game-winning field goal a little bit later.
No kidding.
But even still, there's been we have instant replay for a reason.
I remember watching actually that play on replay later on after the game, and before I knew what the final call was going to be, I was like, oh yeah, he looks down, and that was just to the naked eye sitting on my couch on a TV kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't understand. I think one of the ones that are still sticking out to me as one of the quote-unquote plays of the year, misses of the year, was during the Seahawks-Lions game.
Yeah.
When the ball was clearly batted out of the back of the end zone by the Seahawks linebacker as Calvin Johnson was going to reach for the end zone. It was literally smacked out of the end zone. Yeah. Refs didn't call a single thing. They were right there watching it too.
I mean, heads up play by that defensive player. No fault to him. You just trying to make a play when he can. So this is not us taking a shot at the Seattle Seahawks at all. It's more of a saying like, come out officials. There's a guy sitting right there.
Yes.
Actually, I remember I was watching the Falcons-Vikings game this last weekend, and Matt Ryan got all up in arms about a call that he felt should have been called. You could actually read the official's lips on TV. He's like, I'm watching you, Matt. Like, that call wasn't mine to make. Like, I'm watching you as you roll out of the pocket. So you get to see the frustration that, I understand each official has a designated area of the field that they need to watch. You got one watching the quarterback, one's watching the offensive defensive line, one's in the secondary, blah, blah, blah. But
and you'd think with 7 guys?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's more than probably should be happening, but with more than even 3 guys on the field, you think that they would be able to get things right.
Yeah.
I mean, people yell all the time about in soccer how there's, missed calls and whatever, but it's a little different with soccer because the ball is always with one person. There are so many moving parts of a football game that you need 6, 7 guys stationed throughout the play.
And again, it's always unfortunate as a football fan to see a great play nullified by like a penalty that's away from the ball. An offensive holding on the receiver on the opposite end of the field or an illegal use of hands. It's like, man, that had nothing to do with the play. Like, come on.
And how many times do we see a kickoff, a punt return, even anything over a gain of 2 yards, basically, come back for a holding call, a block in the back, any of that stuff? And yes, we get it. Holding happens on almost every single play.
Yeah, somewhere.
At some point. I mean, realistically. But even still, there's at certain points where it's like, oh, look, there was a kickoff. Well, that's probably a block in the back. Or, oh, look, a nice little 10-yard play, probably a block in the back. But what's interesting, at least according to the article that I found here on 24/7 Sports, is that they say that there has been a huge turnover in referees over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
The NFL has hired 23 new officials and swapped out 20 over the past 2 years.
That's a lot.
Which, according to a source from the Boston Globe, says that is unusually high.
That seems like it. That's, 3 or 4 full crews.
Yeah.
So we're talking 3 or 4 games every week that potentially have brand new officials. And again, that's not saying that they don't know what they're doing. They've clearly met the qualifications to be NFL officials. They just don't have that experience.
Exactly. 2 other good points that this article brings up is saying that the instant replay booth is making referees worse. Which could be, I could see, it says, one of the things it says here is the most significant change this season is the instant replay system. Officials and the VP of officiating, Dean Blondo, watch every game from league headquarters and communicate with referees during replay situations.
Yep.
Multiple officiating sources within the league told the Boston Globe that this is an implementation has caused the officials to question their calls on the field and rely more on what the people back in the studio and headquarters believe to be the right call than what they who are actually at the game believe.
Yeah. And again, that comes down to some of the bigger plays, some of the bigger calls that need instant replay, but quite frankly, I think being an official in the NFL right now is not a highly desirable position. Guys, and gals see those opportunities and just see the amount of stress and what am I trying to say? Like the limelight that they're in, just the microscope that the officials are under right now.
Sure, but do you understand how much they get paid a year to do their job?
I don't.
This is a part-time job for these guys. There are no. This is another point that they're made: is that NFL officials are not full-time employees.
Okay.
If I told you, Sam, if you could work part-time, you have to work 14, maybe 15 times a year. Just that's it.
Yep.
And you would get paid $173,000.
Ooh.
Maybe plus a 401k plan.
Yep.
Maybe some playoff games if you're lucky.
There we go.
Would you take that job?
Absolutely.
Would you dedicate your heart and soul to that job, or would you just enjoy the extra little boost in your bank account and still go on and do your normal life things?
I guess it would depend. I mean, it's easy to sit back and say, oh, yeah, I try to take it seriously, blah, blah, blah. But,
yes.
I really do want to believe that there are a number of officials out there that take pride in their work, that want to call, the perfect game. I'm sure there's some pride in that. And
sure.
In the inner circle of officials, they have their own really cool culture. But, you have to wonder how much rulebook reading they do. I mean, there are some calls that they make, and they're right. They literally know the entire rulebook, or at least they should.
They should. And there's another point that's brought up here saying that when you mentioned the Patriots-Bills game with how everything was kind of just flying around during that game, they made a wrong call based off of a college rule instead of an NFL rule.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that where it's like, come on, guys, you need to understand where you are.
Yep.
Those kids are playing for fun. These are paid professionals that make their living off of playing this game.
Yep.
You need to get the right call Otherwise, you're going to cost the game. You're going to cost an outrage. You
Yep.
might cost yourself a job
Yeah.
if you continue to make bad calls. So
No kidding.
I think with all these bad calls that we've seen this season, I wouldn't be shocked, unfortunately, if we see another purging of referees
Yeah.
this year and try to get in some more guys.
Yeah, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
There was after Rob Gronkowski was called for an offensive pass interference on a key drive that the Patriots had. He ran like an out route and then like a slant towards the sidelines, and he lowered his shoulder a little bit into the guy in front of him, never extended his forearm, just kind of ran out, dropped, and cut out, and he was called for an offensive pass interference. There are some people who were saying, well, due to his status and his abilities as a player, he's held to a higher standard. And then there's also another note that I wanted to bring up about how I think it was Ed Hockley who told Cam Newton earlier in the season, you're not to that point yet to get that call.
Yeah.
Do you think a player's, whether it's in the instance of Cam Newton, his age or lack thereof in the eyes of Ed Hockley doesn't merit him a call of a roughing the passer or things like that, or a player like Rob Gronkowski who is such a veteran and who's so good that these players are held to higher standards, for better or for worse?
Well, I think regardless, the referee needs to do his job. I don't care if Cam Newton's been in the league for a day or been in the league for 18 years. If there's a roughing the passer call, you need to call it as a referee. There's no reason that a ref should be saying you're not old enough for that or you haven't been around long enough for you to get that call. It doesn't matter if he's been around for 5 minutes or 20 years.
Yep.
You call that call. You are a ref. That is your job.
Yep.
But you're paid $173,000, if not more,
No kidding.
to make that call. If a quarterback gets hit after the two-step rule after he releases the ball, that is a roughing the passer call. Make the call, do your job. In terms of Gronkowski, I do think that when the status aspect of it is applied, and I think as Packer fans we understand that too, there are a few times that you look at Aaron Rodgers, you'd assume that maybe he does get something in his favor sometimes.
Yeah.
You always see him over talking to the refs during a play or trying to figure things out. But
Yeah.
every single team has at least that one guy that the refs identify with. That's, as a captain, that's what you're supposed to do. You're
Yep.
supposed to look at them. You're supposed to talk to them. But I just don't understand why people need to feel the need to do that, and the referees need to say, oh, maybe you'll get it when you're older. It's kind of like telling your kids, we'll tell you when you're older. It's like, no, do your job, do what you're supposed to do, and everybody will go along just fine.
Yeah. And again, like one last point I wanted to bring up was I understand that a lot of the tightening of the calls is due to player safety, the concussion protocol, things like that. And I am fully behind protecting the players and wanting to, make sure that they have a life outside of the NFL. And, I think sometimes people forget that these guys will play till, their 30s, maybe 40 if you're Matt Hasselbeck, or if you're a kicker, you might play a little bit longer, or Charles Woodson, things like that. But once you hit like your early to mid 40s, you're done. I mean, you're done playing NFL, but then it's like you want to make sure your body can still handle the last 30, 40 years of your life.
Yep, exactly.
So I understand protecting the players. That's great, and that's a good thing that the NFL is trying to do, but I think there are better ways to go about ensuring that.
I agree. And just as a side point from what you were saying, too, I thought it was very interesting with everything we talked about yesterday with Kobe Bryant retiring. I heard a great little bit on the radio yesterday from Mike and Mike on ESPN, and they were saying that when Kobe wakes up the first day after he's officially retired, he's no longer going to feel old. Because realistically, yes, for his sport, for his job, he's incredibly old.
Yeah.
He's 37 for an NBA player.
Yeah.
And then you flip it over, you take that NBA status away.
Yep.
He's only 37.
He's 37 years
He's got
old.
at least 40 to 60 years left of his life.
Yep.
So that man's got plenty of life left to live. He's going to do all kinds of great things.
Yeah,
so
he is.
It's one thing to say, these guys are getting old. Yes, for their job, for their craft, absolutely. But when it comes to being who they are now, totally different. So let us know your thoughts about everything about the refs. You can get us on Facebook, at Twitter, at BG Sports Show, at Samuel_Wallace, to at Baxter Colburn. We're going to be joined by David Kenyon of Bleacher Report when we come back. But first, we'd like to mention a word of one of our sponsors of the BG Sports Show. That would be Student Debt Center. You can call them today to have your student loan payment reduced by calling 855-401-3508.
That number again is 855-401-3508. Back with more after the break.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm back.
And this is Sam.
All right, Sam. For those of you out there that love football and love the wonderful world of the BG Sports Show, you, I'm sure, can find out many different ways of things that we like and talk about on the BG Sports Show by finding us on social media. You can find us on Facebook by liking us at the BG Sports Show, and you can also follow us on Twitter and also on Instagram at BG Sports Show as well.
Yeah, you can find news
Trying
articles.
To jump my parts in?
I know. Just getting so excited.
Jeez. Sorry,
so
continue.
excited.
No,
I'm sorry.
Fine. Go.
You can find news articles, videos, pictures, and more. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Baxter Colbert and at Samuel_Wallace2.
Fantastic. All right, well, it is Tuesday, and in one way, shape, or form or another, we do have David Kenyon on the line. So good morning, David. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty well. Hopefully we get this figured out.
Hopefully, yeah. We thought we had it, but for some reason, I don't know what the deal was on our end. But we've got you at least in some shape or form here, so that's all that matters. So I'm glad that we can finally just have you on and talk about some fantasy football. When was the last time that you thought that Russell Wilson and Matthew Stafford would be the highest scorers in fantasy football in any given week?
Probably about 2013.
Ah, okay. So it's been a while, realistically. But I want to just jump into those two guys right off the bat. What were your thoughts about how those two guys did this week?
Well, Stafford did a very nice job of taking advantage of the terrible defense.
No kidding.
The Eagles are just an absolute mess in every corner right now. And then Russell Wilson, that was a very nice performance from him. I'm not going to sit here and say the Pittsburgh defense is anything special.
No, I don't think anybody would really tell you that.
But, I mean, still, 5 touchdowns, that's not something you can just brush off. I know one of them was kind of cheap late, Pittsburgh selling out on a blitz, and Baldwin breaks a couple tackles, but hey, that's the nature of the game.
Exactly. Well, hey, I know Sam has a question for you, David.
Yeah, David, a couple weeks ago we had somebody on the show make a statement, and he predicted that Mike Evans would have more passing yards the remainder of the year than Demaryius Thomas. That was back in Week 10, and so from Weeks 10, 11, and 12, currently Mike Evans is sitting at 253 yards, and Demaryius Thomas is sitting at 166.